Hey, welcome back to Mrs. B Reads. We are working on Dusty Bowling's The Canyon's Edge, and this is page 203, Stress. I'm climbing using cracks. My fingers barely slip into up to the first joint, meaning like here on her finger. So these are not very deep cracks. Oh God. Remember, she's already at 20 feet. She's got to go up to 40 feet. She's got to climb another 20 feet up this canyon wall. If you haven't seen the show Free Solo on the National Geographic channel, go and check it out and you'll see similar to what Nora is going through. Okay. I'm climbing using only protrusions, that means things that stick out, in the rock that may only stick out enough to hold the tips of my toes. My feet are sore, toes raw, toenails torn. Oh God, she's barefoot. My hands are swollen, palms sliced, fingers cracked, fingernails shredded to nubs. At home, I eat chocolate and listen to my music and wrap myself tightly in my soft blanket and tie my figure eights and knead my balloon of flour to ground herself. Mary told me how to make it, a regular birthday balloon, baking flour, and a funnel to fill it. And I knead and knead and knead until the balloon bursts. Then I make another one. There's no way I could hold on to this wall of rock right now with my marred hands if I hadn't kneaded my balloon of flour thousands and thousands of times. The top. My fingers finally brush the ground above my head, and the relief almost makes my tired limbs go limp, which I can't allow. My heart speeds with excitement as I grip the edge of the canyon and pull myself up, allowing my upper body to rest on the hot dirt for a few seconds. 40 feet, without ropes, without rock shoes, without chalk, without a harness, without a belayer, standing at the bottom, taking up my slack and keeping me safe so I don't plummet to the earth. 40 feet. And I did it. Desert sun. I drag my legs up out of the canyon. I pull my boots, my socks still stuffed inside, off my shoulder, slip them back on my sore feet, wincing at the pain. Our closest star bakes my skin. Do you know what she's talking about? What's our closest star? Do you know? The sun. Dries my insides and drains the last drops of energy, making muscles cramp. The mud I'd slathered on my skin for protection has mostly flaked off. The back of my neck is already burning without my long hair to protect it. There's not even a single drop of muddy water up here. No canyon walls to block the sun. So now she's out in the open, flat desert plain. But I don't have time to lament. Lament means being sorry for loss, wailing and weeping over loss. I don't have time to lament my lost mud, lost hair, lost water, lost shadows, because I have to focus on finding my lost dad. Reason. I strain to see through squinted eyes, black spots bursting all around me. Nothing. There's nothing. Not even power lines, nothing. But scrubby brittle brush and scrawny palo verdes and gangly ironwoods and towering saguaros as far as I can see. Oh, blisters sting my feet and toes, and my feet ache from so much walking. I had to get rid of the sticky notes. They were blocking me from seeing you. I stumble and scrape my knees. My hands scream out in pain as rough dirt and stones dig into my cuts and sores. And again, I pray for help, for a plane to see, for a hiker to come along, for a nearby bush to erupt into flame. That's a biblical reference to Moses and the burning bush. And then maybe they'd see, which is illusion, by the way. And then maybe they'd see, and then maybe they'd come, and then maybe I'd know there is a reason for all of this. Forgive. People say the desert is unforgiving, as if it's a harsh judge who will send you to prison for a tiny mistake. People say respect the desert, as if it's a big muscular bully who will pummel you for the slightest misstep. Pummel means punch. they're right. And I've made so many missteps. I'm supposed to find a shady spot during the day to rest and only travel by night. I stop in front of a large palo verde, consider curling up under its skinny branches, barely large enough to filter the beating sun, and then moving on after dark. If only there were moonlight or a flashlight for that. If only there were time for that. I don't know what's happening with Dad, where he is, what condition he's in, but I'm certain now that every second counts. If it were summer, we'd be dead already. But we would never hike a canyon in the middle of the Sonoran Desert in the middle of summer. And so I hope the desert forgives my missteps, mistakes, my mild disrespect, despite the heat mirages wavering all around me, despite the turkey vultures now circling above me as I walk, floating on their invisible whirlpools. I hope the desert doesn't judge me too harshly. I hope the desert forgives. Another way. I walk along the precipice, watching the ground for rattlesnakes. They'll be out, and stepping on one would mean the end of all this. I periodically, meaning from time to time, scan the canyon for Dad, with no good idea how I'll get back down to him without the rope. I stop in front of a large ocotillo, its branches long wands, wondering whether I could somehow use one. But even the tallest wand is probably only a third as tall as the canyon. Dad could climb a little, grab onto it. The thorns would pierce his hands the whole way. They would pierce mine as I held it. The pain would be unreal. Could I? Could I hold his weight? What do you think? Could she hold a grown man's weight? Could I use a tree branch? The palo verde, the mesquite, the ironwood all have large thorns, and their branches aren't nearly long enough. The rib of a saguaro skeleton? I haven't seen one, and they're probably too brittle. Could I use another kind of plant? Weave a rope, like the Tohono O'odham weave their beautiful baskets. That is a native nation, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it. What do they use? I've learned about this so many times at national parks, museums, art shows, and classes. Yucca? Devil's claw? Bear grass? I can't remember, but I know I've seen none of that. And how long would that take anyway to weave a 40-foot rope? Too long. What if Dad isn't even in the canyon? What if he's already climbed out? What if we've somehow missed each other? And I'm walking in the hot sun, no water to be found, walking to nowhere and no one. Walking on water. I keep replaying it in my mind. I can see and feel the backpack slipping from my fingers over and over again, the weight of it, the weight of the water within. I should never have climbed to that cave. Even if a flood had come, drowning would have been better than this dehydration. My need is so intense, I would do anything right now to be floating in the black water right now, water filling and spilling into my mouth and throat and even my lungs. There's water under my feet, beneath the hard, hot desert ground. The underneath is filled with endless aquifers. Despite literally walking on water to find my dad, I can't drink a single drop from underneath. She can't get to it, right? Desperation. I now carry the dry desert on my skin, in my eyes, in my nose, in my mouth. Dust coats the inside of my cheeks and the surface of my teeth. A cactus clogs my throat. Sand covers my tongue. It's a wonder I don't disintegrate into a puff of powder. I see a pop of pink ahead, and my wobbly legs automatically speed up. Please, please, please. I almost collapse in relief at the sight of prickly pear. The last few fall fruits clinging to the plant, the rest having been eaten and carried away by birds and beetles and javelinas. Dad and I used to pick the fruit together to make prickly pear popsicles. Sweet and cold and refreshing, the taste like watermelon. If you've ever been out to the American Southwest, you'll know that they have prickly pear flavored everything. Jellies, jams, lip balm, lotion, you name it. Everything's prickly pear. Dad's instructions were strict to save me from the spines. Always, always use tongs to pull the fruit off the plant. Does she have tongs? I grasped the fruit in my bare hands, tearing it from the green petals, the small, nearly invisible hair-like spines getting into every inch of my skin. Watch out for the bigger needles. A large spine pierces my tender hand, going deep enough to draw blood when I tear it out. You have to open the fruit carefully with gloves, a sharp knife, a spoon to lift the fruit out. I drop the fruit on the ground and smash it with my boot. Then I pry it open with my thorn-filled fingers and suck the meager, warm fruit out. Never put it in your mouth until all the small spines are gone, or you'll be very, very sorry. The needles find their way into my lips and mouth and gums and tongue and cheeks, juice staining all it touches in flaming fuchsia. Everything in the desert has thorns. Everything in the desert hurts you. Strain the fruit to remove the stone-hard seeds. I eat every last fruit, skin and spines and seeds and all, not willing to waste a single drop by spitting any of it on the ground. I can't get enough. I could never get enough. I swallow mouthful after mouthful, my stomach filling with stones. I'd have to eat about 1,000 fruits to satisfy my needs. The flavor brings me back to those icy cold popsicles. The three of us sitting on the porch, dripping hot pink everywhere, while Mom reads us her newest poem. Do you notice that Popsicles, by the way, has a capital P? Do you know why that is? Because Popsicles is actually the brand name. Even though you probably refer to anything you eat that's frozen on a stick as a popsicle, Popsicles is the name of a brand of popsicles. Kind of like Kleenex. Anytime you use a tissue, do you say, can I have a Kleenex? So Kleenex is actually the brand that makes tissues. Isn't that crazy to think about? So that's why the author capitalized the P for popsicles. I've had kids ask me that before. I want to cry, but don't. I have to move on, my thirst barely muffled by what I've just done to myself. Was it worth it? Was it worth what she just did to herself? Would you have done the same? Underneath. A dust devil spins across the landscape like a small tornado. I watch it as I walk, wishing it were made of water like a waterspout. I would dive inside it and let it twist me, twirl me, whisk me away. The devil moves in my direction, or my own feet are carrying me toward the column of dust as though I'm not controlling them, as though they have a mind of their own, and that mind believes there's water in the whirlwind. Not just to drink, but to dive. I remember swimming with my mom in our pool in the desert, the coconutty smell of sunblock, the sound of splashing, and her voice like the sun's warm embrace on my skin. My hair soaks up every ray and heats to burning. My toes sting on the terribly named cool decking, and I dip them in the refreshing blue. And then I jump into the cold water. The relief against my hot scalp so intense it gives me the chills. The feel of chlorine in my eyes, the blurred sounds and images of the underneath when I tried to stay under as long as possible, challenging myself to hold my breath always longer. My mom worried I wasn't coming back up. So that was a flashback to when she would swim in her own pool in her backyard. I reach the dust devil, and it envelops my body for only a second before dissolving back to the desert. I take in a lungful of dust and stop double over, heaving and coughing. I can barely breathe until every grain is gone. I stand back up, wipe at my sand-filled eyes, and continue along the edge. I feel as though I'm in the underneath now, images all blurry, holding my breath, but without the coolness of the water to soothe my burning cheeks, blazing scalp, battered body, and without my mom here to worry that I won't be coming back up. Don't forget to like and subscribe.